All right, so do you care to have a biblical discussion or a religious discussion?
It's fine with me. I don't care.
All right, I see one of your bullet points is miracles don't happen. Explain.
I don't think the supernatural realm exists or that any supernatural event has ever happened.
Okay. How would you describe the 66 or would you describe the 33 accounts of the resurrection of Jesus by different people who lived in different times?
You mean the contradictory accounts?
No, I'm talking about like the eyewitness accounts. Supposedly, I can't
There aren't
prove.
any.
What do you mean?
There aren't any.
They're Wait, hold on. Describe to me the story of Jesus just as far as the resurrection goes, because I need to know like what your knowledge is on this.
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Like according to biblical tradition, what happened after Jesus died on the cross?
He was buried, and then if you read one gospel, the women go to his tomb and the rock's already opened. If you read another gospel, they go there and the rock isn't opened. In one, they go in there first. In another, they don't go in there first. In one, there's an angel in there. In another one, there's like two men in there. In another one, it's completely different. In one gospel, the women leave and never tell anybody. Way after that, people added 12 lines where they can drink poison and play with snakes and stuff like that.
Dude, I have no idea what you're talking about right now.
You've never read the gospels?
Oh, I've read the Gospels, but I've never heard what you're saying. There is not a single contradiction within the Gospels. Now, if you're talking about Old
Was the
Testament, New
stone
Testament,
was the stone rolled away from the tomb before or after the women got there? Because if you read the gospels, they say two different things.
I believe it was rolled after or before. Sorry, I believe it was rolled away before. But the point I'm trying to make is in one of the Gospels, I don't know which one. I could pull it up here in a second, but in one of the Gospels, it talks about how Jesus resurrected, right? We all know they resurrected, but it says that he stayed on the earth and that multiple, no one ever talks about this for some reason, multiple of the saints came up with him. And people saw these saints. So, like, let's just pretend that one of the
Saints?
saints was Abraham.
Nobody was. What do you call it if you're sanctified? It's not, or it's just called sanctified, right? Nobody was sanctified for hundreds of years after Jesus died.
I'm talking about the people that lived in the Old Testament, the Old Testament prophets. I'm talking about Abraham,
Okay.
Jacob, Isaac, all those people that have died 2,000 years before Jesus resurrected.
Okay.
Okay, so people saw
There
these
aren't,
people allegedly.
there aren't any
Can't
old.
prove it.
Okay, whatever. It's not important. But there aren't
So
any
people
Old
saw.
Testament saints.
Yes, there is. What do you mean? You can be. How do you, okay? That's like saying none of the people before Christ went to heaven or hell.
Being sanctified is a very specific Catholic thing.
Oh, I'm not Catholic.
Well, then I don't know why you used the word saint.
Okay, let's use a different word. Holy, the holy people. God clearly blessed Abraham, whatever you want to call Abraham. I believe that he was a saint or a prophet, whatever you want to call him. Those type of people raised with Jesus in the resurrection, and there were eyewitness accounts to him or to them, and they wrote it down on a piece of paper. And it's not like
There are
it's just a,
claims that say that, but
okay. Well, then how do we know that George Washington's real?
we have George Washington's actual handwriting.
Okay, how do we
We
know
have
that?
portraits that were done of him during his lifetime that we know were done during his lifetime.
Okay, how do we know that Genghis Khan is real?
I'm not aware of the historical evidence that supports him, but
But you see where I'm going with
I'm
this,
not
right?
obsessed with the idea of whether or not he exists. If he
Well,
doesn't
no,
exist, then cool.
I'm saying you accept the historical evidence of everyone but Jesus.
When did I say Jesus didn't exist?
Okay, you deny the historical evidence that he resurrected from the dead.
Yes,
Because the same
that's
people
very
that said that
different.
he existed, the same people that said that he existed also said that he was raised from the dead.
Yeah, we don't know that.
Okay, yeah, you're right. We don't know that, but like, why would all these people just make it up for no reason?
There's no evidence that they said it. There's evidence that
Yes, there
hundreds
is.
of years later, other
Yes,
people
there
said
is.
it. No,
Dude,
there's
even in
zero
ancient,
evidence. Okay, Will,
even in
Will, your favorite song is "Wet Ass Pussy." I know this because you said it.
Okay.
There, that proves it.
Now, that would be a very accurate statement if 25 of my best friends that knew me my whole life said it and wrote it down on a piece of paper.
What if 200 years from now, 25 people that neither of us know write this down? But
that's
from
not
the
what
time
happened.
when you or I were alive, absolutely nothing about this was ever written down.
But that's not what happened, though.
That's exactly what happened. The
Really?
earliest gospel,
Who
Mark,
wrote the four
was
gospels?
written in like between
Who wrote the
65
four
and
gospels?
85.
Who wrote the four gospels?
Nobody knows.
Yeah, what do you mean nobody knows? It's like at the very beginning of
There
the
are these people, they live on earth, none of them know. That's what I mean.
It literally says at the beginning of the book, I am Matthew or I am John.
No, it does not.
Yes, it does. Look it
No,
up right
it's
now.
the gospel according to these people. People back then
Okay,
didn't
dude.
write
They
in the
clearly wrote
third
the
person
book.
like that.
They clearly wrote the book.
No, they didn't clearly write the book because people who take a rigorous, unbiased academic approach to this unilaterally agree that nobody knows who wrote the Gospels. I will take their opinions over some apologist, not because I want I desire it not to be true, because that is
think
the
you do,
best
though. I
that
think
is the
deep down you
best
do.
objective way of approaching it.
I think deep down you don't want it to be true.
No, I was Christian for a long time.
Well, you weren't Christian because what does that really mean to be Christian?
Whatever I want it to mean. If it can mean whatever you want it to mean, it can mean whatever I want it to mean.
Well, no, a
So
Christian
there.
is a follower of Christ, but
Yep,
if
and I
you
was.
didn't, but you weren't because you don't believe in him.
I was back then.
Okay, then I guess you were a follower of an imaginary Christ that you didn't actually believe in.
Okay, I guess there aren't any true Scotsmen, are there?
I don't know. So, okay, here's my main question. How many books are there in the Bible? In the King James Bible. Let's just use that one for easy standard.
Old and New Testament?
Yes.
I don't remember. I think there's like 33 in one and 20-ish in the other.
66 in total, right? There's 66 books, so you were close. 66 books in the Old Testament and the New Testament. And they were all written by 33 different authors. And now I know that some of them, like the first four books of the Bible.
Oh, that's not
Genesis-
true.
What?
Paul wrote several of the books in the New Testament.
Yeah, I didn't say he didn't. I'm saying throughout the whole Bible.
You said
there were
all
33
book.
different
You said
authors.
they're all written by different people.
No, okay. Like I was trying to say, the first four books of the Bible, we assume that Moses wrote it. And yes, Paul wrote, what, 60% of the New Testament or 50% of the New Testament, whatever it is. He wrote a lot of books. But the point I'm trying to make is if 33 different people who we know lived in completely different times end up telling the same story and they're completely unrelated and they're telling the exact same story, how does that not strengthen your faith in it?
They don't tell the same story.
What do you mean?
There are irreconcilable differences in the stories.
No, there's not. There's prophecies.
How did
in the
Judas
book of
Iscariot
Isaiah.
die?
What do you mean? Or
How did
according
Judas
to the Bible,
Iscariot
he hung
die?
himself.
No, according to the book of Acts, he fell over and his belly burst open. So which one is
Okay,
it?
maybe he hung himself and then he fell over off the rope.
It says he fell headlong. How can you fall headlong after a rope that you're hanging from breaks and then land and your belly burst open? And if you died by hanging, why would a book say you died by falling and your belly bursting open?
I don't know. That's a good question. I haven't
The
personally
best
read
explanation is they're two different stories about about the same guy dying, and they have completely different details. So we can't figure out. So there's no way to reconcile how you can be hung and then fall head first and your belly burst open. But whatever.
Okay.
Who bought the field? Did he buy the field or did the high priests buy the field?
I don't know.
Because two
I'll be
different
honest. I'll
books
just be
say
honest and say I
two
don't know.
completely different things.
Well, I would have to look. I can't take your word for it. I'm not saying you're lying, but I would have to look into that for myself. But I'm not saying you're lying. But let's go into the book of Isaiah. I wish I had my Bible on me, but I don't. In the book of Isaiah, there's a verse that says something like, "Behold, the woman shall conceive a child, and his name shall be called Emmanuel," which means God is with us. If Isaiah
Yep,
was
Jesus'
written,
name was Jesus, so we can move on
Okay,
from
but-
there.
hold on. What does the word Emmanuel mean?
I don't know.
It means God is with us, or God with us.
So
So that's
Jesus' name was
symbolism for
Jesus, not
Jesus.
Emmanuel.
Okay, it's called symbolism.
So
Just
the
like
words
okay, just like
don't, so it doesn't have to mean what actually happened. It just means whatever we
what do you
interpret it to
mean?
mean
Jesus, the
thousands
whole
of
time
years
Jesus
later.
is on earth, Jesus is God. God is with us. I mean, that's a pretty clear correlation.
Where does it say that?
When Jesus claims himself to be God, he
He
claims
never
himself
does
to be
that.
that. Yes, he does. He
No,
says
he doesn't.
I am. Okay, I'll tell you. He says unless you believe that I am he, and if you look into the Greek and the Hebrew, he's saying I am the same I am that Moses was talking to God in the burning bush 4,000 years before.
Yeah,
That's the
who
same
wrote
God.
that? Who wrote
All-
that?
Different people. That's the whole point.
When? When did they write it?
Who write what?
So, hundreds of years after Jesus died, people wrote stuff down because they created an idea of some guy who was fully God, fully man. And so they wrote stories to vaguely make it sound like other things that were said at one point.
What
Meanwhile,
would
we
be
know
the
for a
breakdown?
fact that they changed the texts and added things to it. Like, do you know what the Johannine comma is?
Nope.
So it's this part. Let me read it out so I get it. Johannine comma. For there are three that bear record, and then this is the comma. In heaven, the Father, the Word, and the Holy Ghost, and these three are one, and there are three that bear witness in earth. That specific
Okay.
part was added to the, what is this in? Which gospel is this? John. Hundreds of years after the Gospel of John had first been written and tossed around, they added that in there because they were trying to
Who
construct a
added this
narrative
in?
that we don't know who added it in, but we have early, like the Alexandrian and the Synodic, or what do you call it? What the hell do you call that? The Vatican, the
Council of Nicaea?
Codex or whatever. No, not that. Just we have very old Gospels, some from Alexandria, one from the Vatican, but they don't have this in there. It was added much later on.
I don't know, like you may be right again. I don't know the validity behind that. But let me ask you
Okay.
this.
So
Let's say
here's
these
the
people are
thing.
making
You're going to
like ask
take
a
all
question,
these
please.
verses written down by nobody knows who, nobody knows when, and we're not going to interpret them literally. We're going to interpret them biblically in order to try to defend something. I
Well,
think
yeah, I think the whole
instead
book of Revelation is complete symbolism. I mean, 90% of it at least. Like a beast coming out of the ocean. Like no one's going to take
the
that
book of
completely literally.
Revelation is an apocalyptic writing about the Roman
The future.
Empire. No, it's not
No.
about the
Okay.
future.
No. Okay, have you ever heard okay,
Have you
you're
ever
right
looked
and you're wrong
into
at the
the
same time.
scholarly literature of this?
You're right and you're wrong at the same time. Have you ever seen the book of Ezekiel when he talks about a will within a will?
Nope.
Okay, so he has this vision, this crazy vision. Go look it up. It's crazy. All right, so the
Right.
will within a will is basic. It's, in my opinion, and other historical scholars' opinion, it's saying that the story of the Bible plays out and repeats itself. Like, for example, you may have been Judas Iscariot at one point, and maybe I was Pilate. Maybe I governed something wrong. Maybe you betrayed someone you loved. Maybe you doubted like Thomas. So everything in the Bible replays itself. So yes, the story of Revelation or the book of Revelation does, like what you said, it is symbolism or it is fact to the Roman Empire falling or the Roman Empire taking over Jerusalem. I agree with that. But I think it's a will within a will and that history repeats itself. Would you agree that history repeats itself?
I
You understand
don't
where I'm going with this?
barely.
Okay, so yes, it happened in the siege of Jerusalem in what, 70 AD, whatever that is. But I also think it's going to happen again in a different time. Just like there's prophecies in the book of Genesis that have already happened, they still happen today, so it's like a will within a will. I know that may sound confusing, but that's my best argument to that. Like, I don't believe the Antichrist has arrived yet. Yes, the Bible does talk about how the Antichrist spirit is here, but I don't think that the physical human being Antichrist is here yet. And if he is here, we haven't seen him yet. Like, who would have been the Antichrist in that day? Most people would say Emperor Nero, which could be true, but there again, I think it's a will within a will. Maybe Emperor Nero was that version of history's Antichrist, and maybe me and you will see an Antichrist in the future. I know that's a long rant.
Okay. Anyways, the very first thing that was talked about was a bunch of eyewitnesses, right? So Paul wrote that there were 500 witnesses or blah, blah, blah. Paul was born in Turkey. He never ever met Jesus. I think in one of the stories it says Jesus like appeared and they walked side by side and he talked to him. That's what it says. But this account of like the 500 witnesses wasn't written by them. It was written by Paul, who never met any of them or didn't witness the events themselves. And we don't have anything that Paul wrote down. We have
What do you
copies
mean?
of copies of copies of things that Paul wrote down.
Okay, true.
Just like this isn't evidence that Wet Ass Pussy is actually your favorite song because you didn't actually write this. It just says you wrote this. That is the problem with every single thing in the Bible.
You
We
could
don't
say that
have
with
a
any
single
historical
piece
figure.
of text from the time period of which the events supposedly took
You could
place.
say that with any historical figure.
True.
So I guess we can't believe any of them.
I didn't. I don't. I don't believe that Jesus existed. But if you're asking me to, okay, so let's do this. You say miracles can happen. I don't think they can.
Okay.
Do you think that Muhammad existed?
Existed, yes.
Okay. Convince me that when he ascended to heaven, the moon split in half. Because I don't believe it.
I don't believe that either.
Convince me that it happened.
But I don't believe it.
No, you believe in miracles, so convince me that this one happened.
But I don't believe in that miracle.
You believe that miracles are possible, so convince me that this one happened.
But I don't believe in that miracle.
Yes, but you believe that miracles can happen, so give me an argument for why this
This
miracle
is a stupid
happened.
question. This is a stupid argument.
Why is it
I
stupid?
don't believe it happened. Like,
I
can I
know
prove
you
it?
don't
No,
believe it
I don't
happened, but
believe it
give me
happened.
an argument to believe that it happened.
I can't because I don't think it happened.
Okay, so your claims are no better.
Oh, I agree. It's 100% based off faith. I'm not saying that I can 100% prove it, but I can say there's a lot of historical evidence to support it.
Okay, so let's say it well, I totally disagree with that. But let's say this a different way.
Really?
Is there any reason you don't have to even try to convince me, but can you even think of a reason to believe that it happened?
That what happened?
The moon split in half.
No, I don't think it happened.
No, but I'm asking, can you even think of a reason why a good reason to think it happened?
No, I think it's stupid.
Okay, well, I think that the idea of walking on water is equally stupid.
Okay, again, I admit it is faith. It is based off faith. I believe there's more
So
historical
then there's
evidence
no
for
reason
Jesus
to
than there
believe
is
it.
Muhammad,
Yeah,
as
yeah,
far
but
as their supernatural abilities.
see, what you've just done is you've just said that my idea, there's no good reason to believe my idea, and my idea is no better than any other idea. Now, most people aren't comfortable saying that, but that is, think, where we've ended up here.
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit it is based off of faith. The Bible even says it is impossible to please God without faith. Why do we expect God to just come down to each one of us? There's 7 billion people in the world, however many, and just say, "I'm real, worship me." Like, what's the point? In the book of Genesis, when he puts Adam and Eve into the Garden of Eden, whether you think that's a real story or not, it's this concept of free will. I think that that's why there's the two trees. You have the good and the bad. It's like you have the option to do evil, but what will you choose? God is not going to force you to love him. You have the option to disobey or obey. But I do think that it is very stupid to be an atheist. Now, if you're a religious person, okay, fine, you believe in something. But I think it is downright stupid to be a complete atheist. I think that's the worst possible perspective you can possibly have.
Even though you cannot give me any reason to believe in what you believe in.
I cannot give you a reason to I mean, I could give you reasons that I believe in Jesus, but I can't prove it to you. I cannot give you a glass of water or a glass of something and say, here, Jesus is in this glass. But here, you
Okay.
like science, right?
So
You
that
like
well,
science and
if
mathematics,
you
right?
can't justify any of it to me, then why am I stupid for thinking differently than you?
Okay, I'll explain it. Here's the mathematical probability that the Big Bang happened through natural occurrences. Okay, just listen.
Oh, this
Let's say that a
this is not gonna
tornado,
be good.
well, you're an atheist, so I assume you believe in the Big Bang.
We know the Big Bang happened.
We don't know it. That's why it's called the Big Bang Theory.
It's a
But
theory, which means it's proven by evidence. Do you think atoms
a
exist?
theory means that it's proven.
By evidence. Do you think atoms exist?
Yes.
It's called
But
atomic
that's
theory.
okay. I
Do you
believe
think
that
germs
it is.
exist?
Sure.
It's called germ theory. Do you
All
think
right.
gravity
Anyway, let me get to my
exists?
point. Let me get to my point. The
Do you
mathematical
do you think that the
probability.
faster you move through space, the slower you move through time? Because that's called the theory of relativity.
Can I get to my point? Can I say my point? Hello? All right, the mathematical probability of the Big Bang being true through natural occurrence without the concept of God would be similar. This is the perfect analogy. It would be like a tornado go. Just listen. It would be like a
Forming a
tornado.
747. Yeah, I've heard it before.
That's not what I was gonna say. Well, yeah, basically, it would be like a tornado going through a junkyard and forming the perfect Lamborghini. Do you think, in an infinite amount of tries, that that would ever happen?
Infinite? Yes, it has to because
Really?
it's infinite.
But
Yes, because
no, it doesn't. That's not
if you
true.
have an infinite amount of time, everything that can happen will happen.
I don't agree with that.
No, you don't get to agree with that. That's literally how infinity
Yes, I do.
works.
Yes, I do.
That's literally how causal
do that.
events and an infinite amount of time works.
No, that's not true.
No, oh,
Infinite. Dude, you're
talking
telling me.
about?
You were telling me. Listen, bro. You were telling me
Will.
that a tornado going through a junkyard will end up forming a perfect Lamborghini
in
at
an
some point.
infinite amount of time, everything that
That's
can
stupid.
happen will happen. Do you understand the concept of infinity?
I understand. I just think that it would infinitely not work.
If something is possible, you didn't say the odds were zero, did you?
I feel like it's pretty clear that the odds are zero.
You never said the odds were zero.
For a perfect Lamborghini, I'm talking perfection. A tornado going through a
Yep,
junkyard.
sounds like
you
the most
think
improbable thing ever. It doesn't matter because we're dealing with
it's
an
impossible
infinite
for-
amount of
I
time.
feel like it is impossible for it to happen.
If you're saying the odds are zero, then okay. So here's the deal. Let's say we have competing claims, right? And we don't know which one is true. Well, if we're trying to analyze, if we want to try to figure out which one's the one we should believe in, then we should do a statistical analysis, right?
Okay.
So you gave the Big Bang low odds. What are the odds that God did it?
No, I didn't say that the Big Bang was low odds. I said that it just occurred out of natural selection. That's low odds. I believe that God created the Big Bang. I believe
What
that
are
there's
the
an
what are the
intelligence
odds that God did it?
behind it. Way higher than randomness?
What are the odds?
I don't know. What is it? 199.
Why do you have an opinion if you don't know?
99.99999%.
Okay, work me through the arithmetic.
Okay, if you went into a forest and you saw
I didn't ask for a
laptop.
metaphor. I asked you for
But this is
arithmetic.
I can't give that to you. So this is the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, that's because you don't have it. So we don't have a number for
But
the
you don't
God
either. So what's the
hypothesis.
probability? So you tell me the probability of God existing. What is it? Tell me the statistical probability of it.
It's fundamentally unknowable.
Okay, but I just said that, and you said that that wasn't acceptable.
When did you say that?
I just said I don't know.
Yeah, you said you didn't know the odds.
And you just said that too.
Yes, so we have the Big Bang occurred through naturalism. Let's just say it's asymptotically close to zero. The God one, it is incalculatable. It can't be known. We have no reason to throw in with that hypothesis
Why? Why
because
do
it
you
has
think there's
no
no reason?
knowable probability.
It's so much more obvious that an intelligent creator created it. How can you have creation?
Give me one
How can this-
example of anything that is created.
Okay, this is a good question. If nothing can be created or destroyed, then how
Nothing
is
is
everything
created.
here?
There we go. I
How is everything
also
here,
agree
then?
with the second law of
How is
thermodynamics. The
everything
universe
here,
was
then?
not created because nothing can
So
be
you think-
created or destroyed.
You think the universe is eternal?
Sure, why not?
Okay, that's the only viewpoint that you could possibly hold off that. I don't think.
Is it?
I just don't think people would agree with that, though.
Is it? Is that the only possibility? Maybe time's cyclical. Maybe it's not linear. Maybe existing time was completely irrelevant.
Okay, but you would still have to believe that mass
There
or
we go.
matter was eternal, would you not?
So the idea that the concept of time has to always, this is kind of funny because we have to say at all times, make perfect sense to human beings is just, that's a little too entitled to me.
All right, can I answer a comment in your comment section? You
Yeah,
care?
do whatever you want.
By the way, dude, I don't hate you at all. I know I'm probably coming across as like a jerk, but I enjoy having conversations like this. Thank you for letting me join your live. But this person in the chat said, "Who created God?" This is a question that I used to ask myself all the time, and this is how a creationist told me. He said the very first words of the Bible, if you look at them, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. If you look at that, that is the beginning creation of space, time, and matter. In the
And how come it
beginning,
doesn't say that?
just listen. In the beginning, time, God created the heavens, space, and the earth, matter. This is just a theory, okay? And if you notice, the Bible does kind of support a trinity. And if you look at life around us, it's like a trinity. Just listen. It's like a trinity of trinities. Look at math. Look at math. Length, width, height, space, time, matter, solid, liquid, gas. I mean, I feel like this is a kind of good argument. There are trinities all around us. You can laugh all
It's
you
not
want.
a good argument.
Really? You don't
No.
see trinities all around us.
Only if you're committed to trinities, because for matter, we have plasma, we have Bose-Einstein condensates, we have superfluids.
I'm not saying
Uh,
it's only trinities. I'm just saying it's interesting how a bowl of what I look at creation is in the form of trinities. Land,
but
water,
it's
air,
not.
body, mind, soul. Like
These are
there's a
just
bunch of
lists
trinities.
what about yin and yang? There, well, we just
Well,
debunked
that's
it
not
right then and
biblical, so I
there.
don't believe it. I don't believe
What
in yin and
about
yang.
what about earth, wind, fire, and air? Well, there's four. We just debunked it.
Well, you didn't really debunk it. You just added one to it.
And yours doesn't prove anything.
I didn't say, dude. I'm just telling you
Well,
cool
you're
facts
you're
about it.
using it as evidence, and I'm telling you it's not evidence.
I can, dude. I told you I cannot put Jesus in a glass and give it to you. I can't do that.
Jesus juice, you can.
Jesus is juice.
Jesus juice.
Jesus juice. What is that?
That wine. That delicious, delicious wine.
Never heard of it. Might have to
Never
try
heard
that
of
one day.
wine?
I've never heard of Jesus juice.
That's what the
You're
blood
talking
of
about like a
Christ,
certain
bro.
brand of
Jesus
Jesus.
juice.
His wine, his blood.
Yeah. Blood of Christ, Jesus juice.
Okay. So, can you tell by this conversation that you come across as kind of hateful and arrogant? Like you're kind of cocky in your knowledge.
You said my beliefs are stupid, so I don't think
I
I've
did not say
really
that a
come.
single time. I
Yes, you
said the
did.
words, your beliefs are stupid.
Yes, you said
No, I
being an
didn't.
atheist is the stupidest belief.
Oh, so you're an atheist.
Yes,
So you're not even like agnostic.
I'm an agnostic atheist.
So you believe that there could be a God.
Yes,
Okay, well then you're
but it's
not
not
really
knowable,
atheist.
and there's no
Atheist
evidence
is
of
like
it, so I don't believe.
there's a difference between agnostic and
I
atheist,
know,
in my opinion.
but they're not. But they don't epistemologically. They don't deal with the same thing.
Okay, well, I think atheists, strictly atheists that say there is no God, I 100%
Nope,
know, are
that's not me.
stupid.
That would be a Gnostic atheist, but I'm an agnostic atheist. I
Okay,
don't
well then
know,
I didn't
and
call
there
you
isn't
stupid.
any evidence that convinces me.
Well, I don't think you're stupid.
Okay.
I think that you're trying to search for the truth through science and mathematics, all that, which is good, but like I think it's only going to take you so far. Yes, science can answer the what and all these memorization things that we can know about, but I don't think it teaches us the why, like morality. I
I
think it's
agree.
clear.
I agree that it doesn't. I think the morality of the Bible is hideous, so we should use other.
Really? Why do you say that?
Okay. Hypothetically, do you think that is it okay to punish somebody for a crime they didn't commit?
No. When did God do that?
Well, I'm just asking if it is permissible.
To punish them for a crime they did not commit.
Yes.
So unjustly punish someone. No.
Yes.
I do not think that that is good.
Okay. Can an unborn baby be guilty of anything?
According to the Bible, all babies, according to the Bible, the kingdom of heaven is full of children, and that it would be better to tie something around your neck and throw yourself into the ocean than hurt a child.
So I was just asking, an child can be guilty of anything.
No.
So during the flood, when every pregnant woman died, it was wrong to have killed all of the unborn babies.
No, because technically we are born into sin.
They weren't born.
Wait, repeat your question. Sorry.
So you said we can never punish somebody for a crime they didn't commit. Unborn babies are not guilty of anything when they were all killed in the flood. That was therefore bad.
Okay. From a Christian perspective, my opinion, all the babies went to heaven.
But you said we're born into sin.
We are born sinners. Sin is
Can a sinner go to heaven?
Now this is where it gets really juicy. No, I'm going to be as literal as possible with my answers.
Okay, well, those babies are in hell then.
No, I just told you I'm going to be literal as possible with my answers and then break it down for you. Can sin enter heaven? No. So can I go to heaven?
I asked you, can a sinner go to heaven?
And I just said sin cannot go to heaven. So that would imply
that's
sinners.
not what I asked you.
Okay, sinners are people who have committed sins, and if sin can't go to heaven, they can't go to heaven. But that's not the end of the story. Okay? The fulfillment of this is Jesus. So in the Old Testament, they would sacrifice animals, specifically lambs, not only lambs, but lambs. Jesus is the ultimate sacrificial lamb. The only way that we're going to be able to get to heaven is through the blood of Jesus. And then we will appear sinless before God. That's my belief.
So where are the unborn children?
That have died?
Yeah.
In heaven.
Okay. Was it, so that actually wasn't what we were talking about. Was it okay to kill them?
If I'm God and I am completely just and righteous at all times and I own the earth, then yes, I believe that whatever decision I make, if I am God, is just.
Okay, then you do not agree that it's wrong to kill somebody for a crime they didn't commit.
I think the context behind that is just different. I do think that the sins of parents can pass down to generations. I think that's where we get like generational trauma. Technically, those kids didn't do anything, but their parents did, so they're going to be cursed with it. Would you agree with that?
I don't believe in curses. I believe in epigenetics, but not curses.
Do you agree with generational trauma?
Sort of, but it's way more nuanced than just saying generational trauma, therefore that's why things happen. You have to look at the environment and epigenetics and the way your society is organized, like from a legal perspective and a bunch of other things.
All right, so this person just asked, why did Jesus have to die if before him you could still go to heaven? This is a good question. So when we think of heaven, we think of this white, cloudy place, right? But in the Old Testament, before Jesus was alive, or technically he's been alive forever, but anyway, before Jesus was born unto the earth, there's a place called Abraham's bosom. This is not the same thing as heaven. This is actually a place of, it's crazy. It's a place located in the center of the earth, and it's a gap between Abraham's bosom and Hades, like hell. So it's basically like a mini heaven right beside a hell. But now, since Jesus died on the cross and resurrected, now we will be able to go to heaven. That's why in the book of Revelation, there's a new heaven and a new earth. He says, behold, I make all things new. So I hope that answered your question. And no, Abraham's bosom, again, is like a little mini... I heard a pastor say it was like an air-conditioned hell. It was like for the saints, Abraham, Adam, the people that God loved, the righteous people that technically haven't had their sins paid for yet. And hey, going on that, when Jesus left the cross, it says that he went into the belly of the earth for however many days, I think 3.5, could be wrong on that. But when he went into the belly of the earth, he freed the captives. And I personally believe, and a lot of Hebrew scholars believe, that he freed those people that were in Abraham's bosom. And like me and you were talking about earlier, those were the saints or the righteous people that came up from Abraham's bosom and ascended into heaven with Jesus.
Give me an example of something you think is wrong. Always wrong.
Always wrong. Um, Torturing a baby.
What if God did it?
It depends what you mean by torture.
No, it depends what you mean.
Okay, malicious torture of a baby.
Okay, what if God did it?
Can't be malicious, so he didn't do it.
Then he's not omnipotent.
No. Just because God is omnipotent doesn't mean that he has done all evil in the world and all good. God has never done evil.
He
He's
can.
never tempted.
He can though.
He can, maybe, but I don't. He's not going to.
I asked you what if he did.
He didn't though.
What if he did?
What if my mom could fly? The question's pointless.
Yes, no, it's not pointless. It's only the only reason you don't want to answer it is because you know you have to say then it isn't wrong.
I don't know. It's just one of those questions where he isn't going to do it no matter what. So yes, I guess to answer your mind on this, I would have to say yes, it isn't wrong if God did it.
Then it's not wrong.
For God.
No, then it's not wrong.
No, we are not held to the same standard as God.
What does that mean?
Like, for example, me and you could curse, steal, lie, cheat. We're not going to look at it like it's that big of a deal. But to God, one sin will send you to hell for eternity.
Then morality doesn't exist. Because here's the thing.
Yes, it does.
God can do anything.
Okay. Oh,
right?
I got you, bro. I got you.
God can do anything. He can never do anything immoral. Therefore, nothing immoral can exist.
Whoa.
If you're going to
What do
appeal
you
to
base
divine command theory,
What do you base your morality off of if you don't believe in anything?
reason.
That doesn't make any sense.
Reason doesn't
your
make any
brain-
sense.
According to who? What's the standard of reason? What if your
There's
reasoning
no
is
such thing as a
different than Hitler?
standard of reason.
Was Hitler right in his reasoning to kill all the Jews?
No, because everything he believed
Why?
in was nonsense.
You
The facts of the universe.
you-
There's no such thing as the Aryan
Whoa, if
race.
there's
That's
no
not
God,
an
there is no
opinion. That's a
facts of the
fact.
universe. If there's no God, there is no facts of the universe. You have to base it off of morality.
Okay, if there is no God, there are no facts of the universe. But there not being a God would be a fact. So there you go.
No, you cannot, dude. Just
What do you
admit,
mean no?
Just
What do you
admit,
mean no?
you cannot have
What do
morality.
you mean no?
You cannot have morality without God. Admit that.
Neither can you, because God can do anything,
I agree.
but God can't do anything immoral. Therefore,
My morality comes
immoral
from
things
God.
don't even exist.
My morality comes from God. I believe that the Ten
What does that
Commandments.
mean? What does it mean?
I'll tell
Divine
you.
command theory?
I believe that the Ten Commandments, the basic Ten Commandments, are written on every single one of our hearts. You could put, let's say this. You
So
could
slavery
put.
is permissible because God
Listen,
never said don't do
God
slavery.
never said to have slaves. That did not
Yes,
happen.
he
That's
explicitly told people to
No.
go and get slaves.
No, it's called indentured servants.
No,
referring
it's
to the book
not
of
called
Leviticus.
indentured servitude. He explicitly said you can buy slaves and you can make the children of your slaves your property for life.
All right, so this is a indentured servant thing.
That's not indentured servitude.
It goes
He
way
said
deeper.
you can make their children your
Hold on.
property for life.
Hold
That's
on,
not
let's-
indentured servitude.
Let's say that
Will,
you
this
believe
is the
that.
equivalent of what you're doing. The equivalent of what you're doing would be this. There was never slavery in America. It was called sharecropping. What about all the African Americans that were brought over from Africa and enslaved and sold as property? Yeah, so like I said, sharecropping is not slavery. Slavery didn't exist in America. Yeah, so once again, what about the actual chattel slavery that was practiced in America? It's not slavery. This is what you're doing. There are verses in the Old Testament that talk about you cannot enslave your fellow Israelites in the same way that you can enslave others. That's debt servitude or whatever. But it explicitly says you can bequeath the offspring of slaves. You can trick a slave into becoming your property for life.
Did you mute me?
Yes.
Wait, so can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so let's say that you believe that slavery is wrong.
Yep.
You don't have a basis to believe that it's wrong because what if
The
somebody...
slave
Oh,
doesn't
dude,
want
let
to
me
be
finish my
property.
point.
That's my basis.
Let me finish my
Your
point. Let me finish
worldview
the point.
somehow allows you to never take into consideration the potential suffering, cognition, and feelings
You
of the
won't let me
other
get to my
person.
point, dude.
You get it from you either get it from divine command theory or you just get it from every single thing God does is moral, which means that there are no immoral things.
Will you let me speak?
Yeah?
You cannot have morality without a standard for that. Hold on, let me
You
finish.
don't
Let me
have a
finish.
standard. You
Why
have a
will you not let me
rule. You
finish?
don't have a standard.
Bro,
Tell me the
yes,
standard.
I do. My standard is God. Your standard is
That
a
doesn't mean
magical rock.
anything. Okay,
You're still
my
interrupting me.
standard
You
is
are
noodle.
still interrupting me.
My standard is noodle. There.
You're still interrupting me. If Hitler believes this, I believe this, and you believe this, and it's all different beliefs, who is to say that who is right? You don't get to choose that because there is no standard to choose from.
What if God told Hitler to do everything he did?
Wait, hold on. You aren't answering my questions. Let's pretend there is no God. Who is to say what is right and wrong?
Who decides?
What if I think
Okay,
eating
I
babies
will
is
answer
right?
your question by way of analogy. So I promise I'm not. I promise I'm not dodging your question. It's just that the analogy is useful. Who decides what these words you and I are saying mean?
What do you mean?
Who decides what the words I'm saying mean?
Our English language.
So it doesn't come from God, correct?
Our speech comes from God, the ability to speak and understand. Our mind is able to understand through the power of God. Yes.
Okay, so that's not really what I'm asking, but
So what are you
skateboard.
asking?
Who decides what skateboard means?
Culture.
Great. So we're not, so we don't
I know where you're going
require
with this.
God to agree that skateboard means skateboard, right?
Okay.
Now, that means that the meaning for whatever, for any object around, the way we use language is completely made up. We base it on real things. This exists in the universe, but I decide to call it skateboard because I do. The way we use grammar is
You're digging a hole right
completely
now.
made up. According to your logic, if there's no God, there can be more morality. If we apply that logic to language, then that means that if the words don't mean anything unless we say what they mean, then any word is permissible. But guess what?
Which is
let's,
true
let's
in a
just
world
say
that
we did a
God doesn't
conversation
exist.
like that. Tractor, banana, spaghetti, underneath, pour la playa. There's no meaning there. We agree that the words and the language and the grammar, which is completely made up, actually does have utility and it does actually mean things according to us.
I'm not
It
arguing
can
that
be
words have meaning.
invented and still do that. It makes no sense to say, well, if that's the case, then if words are just made up, then we can use them however we want. Okay, spaghetti, banana, tractor. Except now nobody knows what I mean. Right?
Okay,
So
can I rebuttal this?
morality can be based in things that actually exist in the real world, like human suffering, and all kinds of things like that. It doesn't require a god.
All right, can I
So again,
have
we
a
can use
rebuttal?
reason and a whole bunch of other things.
All right, so my rebuttal to this. You just said that the skateboard is a skateboard based off of culture, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so what if one culture believes that murdering babies is good and one culture doesn't? Who's right? Gotcha.
So to me, what?
Gotcha. You cannot choose. You cannot morality. You can't choose it
You
with
neither
absolute
can
authority.
you, because
Yes, I
if I
can.
ask you what if God said do it, then all of a sudden you completely change your mind and say then it's permissible. You have
It depends what you say
you
God
have
does. It
no
depends what you
actual
say God
stance
does.
on anything, because it doesn't matter what hypothetical you ask me. I can flip it to you and say, "Oh, you say that's bad. What if God said to do it?" And you will
But
always
he
say,
didn't, though.
"Yeah,
That's the thing. He didn't.
he didn't. God
He
didn't
didn't
tell
say.
God did not tell the Israelites to go and slaughter all of the Midianites
Oh,
and the
yeah.
Amalekites and
Do you
kill
know?
all the babies as
Oh, he
well."
did. Do you know what they were doing? Do you know what those people were doing in those in
There,
those times?
you think it's fine to murder babies. You're about
Do
to
you
tell me
know?
that it's
Well,
fine
first
to
off, the
murder
babies go to
babies.
heaven, so it really doesn't even matter. But do you know what those fathers of the babies were doing? If anything, God did them a favor at that time. But
Yeah,
I know
so
that's
it's
controversial.
always wrong to kill babies,
Do
except
you
when it's
know
okay to kill
what the
babies. So
Amalekites were
there,
doing?
great. You
Do you
don't
know what
actually
the
believe in
Amalekites were
morality.
doing? Do you know what the Amalekites were doing?
Burning their babies alive, you know that's nowhere in the Bible.
Yes, it literally says, "Do not offer your children to Moloch." Look it up. Moloch is the ancient god, the god that has his hands like this, and the people were playing the trumps to blast out the babies screaming. So it does say that in the Bible. It literally says, "Do not offer your children up to Moloch."
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So it said specifically, don't do that. So where does it say that that's what this group of people was doing? And the Midianites and the Amalekites. Did the Amalekites worship Molech?
These people were all pagan worshipers. These people were having
So 100% of all
animals.
of the people offered up their children, which means it's okay to murder babies.
I have no idea if it was 100%. But I know that majority were.
boy.
Majority were.
Okay.
Okay, do 100% of humans have two legs?
No.
Exactly. But most of them do.
Look, the point is, you think it's perfectly permissible. You think there are reasons to kill babies. Okay.
Would I kill the baby? No. But
So
I'm
when
not
you
God.
said, we have one culture that thinks it's okay to kill babies and one that doesn't. Which one's right? If you're asking me, the one that says it's not right. But if I ask you, either one of them is fine.
No, I think that killing babies is wrong.
Then why did God tell people to kill babies? Was
But
it for
why are you
unjust
wording it that way,
reasons?
though? Why are you wording it that way?
Because that's what happened. There were babies and they killed them.
Do you see the difference between offering your newborn son? Do you have any children?
Not yet.
Okay, how old are you? I'm just curious.
32.
All
I
right,
got a
well,
sock I can show you.
hopefully you have a son or a daughter one day. But when you hold him for the first time, it's a miracle from God, dude. Like, it honestly changed my life forever. When I imagine
great.
holding my baby up to a flame of fire and sacrificing him to a demon god, I'm sorry to say that is evil. Like,
Okay,
why do you
great. That's
condemn me
evil.
for saying that is
How
evil?
about imagine this? Imagine going up to some neighboring village and slaughtering their baby instead of letting them do it.
Okay, what would be the purpose?
Imagine
of God
that.
not
That's pretty bad. God
actually,
said
I
do
have an
that.
argument. I have an
There,
argument
that's
for
where
this.
we're at so far.
I have an argument for this. Now, this is a deep argument. When God said to kill all those people, I don't remember which person it was, but one of the people were kind of like you, and he let one out of however many people there were. Let's just keep an even number and say there were 1,000, which there were many more. He let one of those people live. And guess what happened? From that one person, another evil culture started to branch off and create a whole other thing of paganism. So in God's mind, yeah, God can do whatever the heck he wants. When
So
is the
there
last
are
time that
good-
you, when is
according
the
to
last
you-
time that you
look,
cared about an ant hill? When is the last time
According
you
to
cared about an
me,
ant hill?
it's never okay to go somewhere and just start killing their babies. According to you, it is. So earlier
is
when
this
you
the
said
only argument
we got
you
one
have?
culture that kills babies and the other that doesn't, which is right? According to you, they
Do
can
you talk
both
about
be
the
right.
love of God at all? Do you talk about any loving stories? You only
Huh?
bring up that one.
I mean, like Passover, that was evil.
To kill the Egyptians that were enslaving. You just said you hated slavery, and they were enslaving
The Israelites were not slaves.
Wait, what?
The Exodus flat out never happened. There's an awkward fact. But even if it did, they
Bro.
weren't slaves.
No.
There's zero archaeological evidence
Actually,
of it.
they found.
And by zero,
Look
I
it up
mean
right now.
zero.
Pull it up.
And by zero, I mean zero.
But
The
there was.
State Museum of Israel went out and looked for evidence for decades, and they found absolutely nothing.
Red chariots under the Red Sea.
Yeah, great. So the Egyptian Empire existed for 2,500 years. So the fact that one chariot was found in one place proves that anything over a 2,500 year span could have happened. That's
Okay, so
so
why do you automatically
brilliant.
dismiss
That's
that it
like
was
me
the Exodus?
That's like me digging in the dirt, finding a piece of paper that says George, and being like, "Oh my God, that proves that George Washington existed." That one thing right there, one thing proves it. That's silly. But anyways. Yeah, killing the firstborn in Egypt who weren't guilty of anything is bad.
It was
And
a
that's according
judgment
to you,
against their
because
people.
killing people for a crime that they didn't commit is bad.
Unless you're God, because you can do whatever you
So
want.
you don't believe in that then?
From my standards, I would be wrong in doing that because I'm a sinful person as well. God is 100% pure and righteous.
Killing an innocent person, by definition, according to you, is a sin.
But you think it's a sin too. You think it's evil too. But the thing is, you don't even have anything to base it off of because
Neither do
some
you.
cultures don't believe that. I believe it off of God.
That
My
doesn't.
morality
Okay,
comes
I
from
believe
God.
based on Noodle There.
Exactly. Yours means nothing. Mine means everything.
Yours means nothing. What does based on God mean?
I believe what God tells us through His Word. I believe that the
There,
Bible is
that's
the written Word
divine
of God.
command theory. So things are only right because God says they are right. Does God
Because
have
He
a
is right.
reason for saying don't do or don't do anything?
If God claims, if Jesus claims to be the way, the truth, and the life, I believe it, dude. I'm sorry. You can hate me as much as you
That
want,
wasn't the
but let's
question.
say this.
I don't hate you. That wasn't the question. The question was,
Well, you
if
didn't
you
let me
believe
answer
in
it.
divine command theory, okay, if God tells us to do or not do something, does he have a reason for telling us?
Yes, I believe He has a reason.
Then we can appeal to reason because God uses reason to dictate what we
But you
should and
can't.
shouldn't do.
You
We can
can't
do
appeal
the
to the reason
exact
because you
same
don't
thing.
believe.
Earlier,
You
I
don't believe
said
that.
we should base it off of reason.
But
I'd be doing the exact same thing your God
hold on, you
does.
just dug yourself a hole. You just said that
Nope.
reason comes from God, but you don't believe in God, so
No, I
you can't
didn't
use
say
reason.
that. I said God uses reason.
But you don't believe in God, so that sentence to you doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. God doesn't have to exist because we can just use reason.
But you said reason is from God.
No, those words did not come out of my mouth.
So where did reason come from?
Where does reason is just something we do. Reason is not a
Okay, so what if
noun.
I
It's not a
just killed
physical
people?
thing.
What if I
You may
just
as well
killed
ask
people?
me, where does 47 degrees Fahrenheit come from?
What if I just go and kill people?
What?
What if I just go kill people because I want to?
Is
It's
that
my
is
reason.
that is that reasonable?
My reasoning is good
No, it
to
isn't.
me or to you, but you don't have anything to base it off of, so it doesn't really matter.
I have the suffering of the people that you killed to base it off
Well,
of,
what's
but
suffering?
you would never take into consideration.
What is suffering?
Not even in your God worldview, because if God told you to do it, you would do it. The potential suffering of that person is not part of the calculus for you doing anything.
Why is
That is the
suffering
type of
bad?
thinking that allows people to do the most horrific things that have ever been done.
Wait, what's horrific? If they think it's good,
You
what do you
killing
mean?
people?
Yeah.
Do they want to be killed? No?
Let's say they do.
Who wants to be killed?
I don't know. What if someone does? What if that's the reason to do it?
Because they want to be killed?
Sure.
Do you think we should appease people's mental illnesses?
No, I'm asking you.
I'm
Oh,
asking
why is
you
it
if we
mental
should
illness?
appeal
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
if
whoa,
we
whoa, whoa,
should
whoa.
appease people's
Whoa,
mental
why? How
illnesses,
do
and I
they
don't
have
think we
mental
should.
illnesses? How do they have mental illnesses if there's no
Because they
sanity?
want to be killed. That is by
To
definition.
you,
Do you
definition to
know? Do you know
who?
how like
To
mental
who?
illness is assessed? Do you know why we say schizophrenia is like maladaptive and it's abnormal and all that? Because the vast
Yes.
majority of people do not have those symptoms. That's
I'm
why.
telling you this. I'm agreeing with what you're saying, but you just refuse to accept that it's from God.
It's not.
You're trying to
What?
say that it's just
What's
a
what?
natural thing that you think. You just naturally, people just naturally come to these conclusions
What conclusions are you talking about?
that murder is bad. Okay, you tell me something. What is something that's wrong? I'll ask you the same question you asked me. What is something
Punishing
that is
somebody for a crime
100%
they
wrong?
didn't commit.
Okay, but why is it wrong?
What? Because they're not guilty of anything.
Exactly. But why does it matter in a world that has no morals?
In a world that seeks to better maximize the potential of all persons,
Right? Can I
a
stop you real quick?
utilitarian perspective,
Can I
then
stop you?
that would be part of the calculus for
But
why.
dude, your better world is different than other people's better world. So who's right? If there is no God.
So this is again. Remember when we talked about language? Groups of people never
This
ever
has
get
nothing to do with
together and
language.
say, you know what we should do? We should figure out a way that makes sure that all of us die. Only apocalyptic religious cults do that, where they end up like committing mass suicide and stuff like
Wait,
that. Only
isn't death
people that think
good?
the way you think end up doing things like that. So it just happens to be part of human nature that we never, ever, ever do that except in weird brainwashing instances.
So you still haven't told me who's the major supreme leader that gets to decide whether something's good or bad.
Oh my God. Why would anybody want to subject themselves to voluntary slavery or servitude to some demagogic figure? Why would
Why is
anybody
this
ever
your only
want
argument,
that?
dude? Use a different book of the Bible. Let's move on from that.
What?
You keep referring to the Leviticus slaves. Like let's move on. Go to
I
something else. Use a different
no,
argument.
that's not even that's I did not do that. You said if there isn't some supreme thing that we all worship, then whatever, whatever, whatever. What kind of like do you think that a democracy is better than a totalitarian dictatorship?
I do because I believe that a
Okay, then
democracy
why
needs
did
to
you
go through
say
things. God.
then why did you say like, well, we need to have some like higher up authority figure
No, no,
tell
no.
us all
I
the
don't.
rules?
I don't because I believe in God. You don't believe in God, so you have to have someone to tell you what's right and wrong.
No,
Otherwise,
collectively we can do it the same way we decide what words mean and how grammar works, even though
okay.
it's made
What if
up and
one
it doesn't
culture wants to
actually
kill
have any
babies?
literal meaning,
What if
but it
one culture
means
believes?
something to us.
All right, here's a great question. Does majority opinion mean that you're right?
What are we talking about?
I don't know. I'm just
Morally
asking.
right or like
Does
scientifically
majority
right or
opinion
what?
mean that you are right?
Morally right or
Well, you
scientifically
can't
right
even
or
say
what?
morally right because there is nothing to base it off
So we're
of.
talking about scientifically right. So the majority opinion does not guarantee that you have correct scientific knowledge about something.
Correct. Okay, so now let's go on to the moral question. Is it morally right?
Is what morally right?
If majority agrees with it,
Um,
because that's your
I don't
argument.
know. It depends. I have different moral views than other people.
But see, it
If a
can't
group of
depend.
people get together and they decide these are our morals, and that's what that collective group thinks, I'm I am perfectly allowed to have my own opinion about
Very
things.
true. But who can be right?
Who can be right? In this
Who
case,
gets to settle what's right?
nobody is literally right or wrong. Just like the words
Okay.
we say, there's no like the English word for apple is different than the Spanish word for apple. Nobody's wrong about that.
Okay, so then this culture over here can kill babies by what you just said.
According to you, they can anyways, because if God says to do it, then you're perfectly happy with that.
No, see, you're running from it. You're saying that other cultures can kill babies, and if they believe it's right,
Their
then it's right
beliefs
for
are
them.
their beliefs. I disagree with their beliefs. And I
Okay,
would
that's
disagree
fair.
with their beliefs from a moral framework that seeks to maximize human well-being. Like, have you ever read like
But that means that's
the
different for every
Humanist
person.
Manifesto or whatever?
Yes, that's different for every human. The perfect
Right.
well-being,
So
like
we have to come together collectively and decide what we're going to
majority,
believe in, just the
majority.
same way we form governments, the same way we form, the same way we use language, and the same way we do science and decide what kinds of foods we like and clothes we wear and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so right and wrong is based off of culture.
Well, it has every single thing that we do is based off of that to an extent.
So just yes or no, right and wrong, morality is based off of culture.
Yes, it has to be because literally everything we
Okay,
do is
well then
partially
if they
based
want
on
to
that.
kill babies, then that's fine. End of story.
I don't think it's fine because that's not what I believe.
But you think it's fine for them to believe that?
It that I didn't say it was right or wrong, it just isn't what I believe. And again, you think that it is fine. You gave a specific example where you
No, I
think that
don't.
killing babies is fine.
All right, let's move on to the next subject.
Um
What do you want to talk about?
oh shoot, what the heck did I do? I don't know, you want to talk about science? That's usually what I like to talk about.
Sure. Let's talk about the second law of thermodynamics. Thermodynamics. What is it?
Matter cannot be created well, it can be worded in many different ways, but matter can't be created or destroyed. It can only change form.
Okay. Word it from a entropy perspective. I'm basically asking, what is entropy?
So there's also many ways to define entropy, but a good definition of it is the like quantity of usable energy.
Okay. Word it in a, what's the word I'm looking for? What's it called when you're like a deep uh, metaphysicist or whatever? You're like a philosopher. You're like a philosopher that's a scientist. What is that called?
I have no idea. A hack?
No. What is it called? Anyway,
Deepak Chopra?
all right. Would you agree that entropy is the state in which things move slowly towards disorder?
Generally, things move more towards disorder. Yeah,
Okay. So how could the Big Bang be right if everything is moving towards disorder? How could it have had order
because that's what
originally?
entropy is.
I agree. But how could it have happened if everything is moving towards disorder? Like, for example, if me and you go into a house,
That's what entropy is.
I'm agreeing with you, but how did it start
What
if everything is going towards
I don't know
disorder?
what made the universe begin to exist. Nobody does.
But how would it have had order to begin with if everything is already going towards disorder and
I don't
chaos?
really know what you mean because, like, on the one hand, it sounds like you're asking me how did the universe get created, and I don't know. And that's also not the Big Bang. If you're asking me why is the universe moving more towards disorder, it's because in the earliest stages of the universe, all the matter and energy we see around us was compressed into a extremely hot and dense state where there really isn't a lot of wiggle room for variance. So it has what we
Okay.
call a perfect black Earth.
But right now,
And all of the
you just said,
cosmological data we have supports exactly that. The Big Bang
okay,
Theory wasn't something that somebody came up with once and then was like, yeah, I'm going to fudge all the evidence to make it look like it confirms the Big Bang Theory. It was discovered by science when science had no idea what the structure of the universe was going to be like.
okay. So here's my philosophical question. If everything is moving towards disorder, which I believe it is, I believe in the law of entropy, how could it have started out perfect without the belief in a God, in a perfect God? How did,
There's name one
basically the question
perfect
is,
thing about the universe.
what? What do you mean?
Name one perfect thing about the universe.
The sun is the perfect distance away for us to exist. Oxygen is in the perfect
Why
place
would you
for us
say?
to breathe. Our heart is in the perfect position. Our arm is in the perfect position. My hand is
No,
perfectly
it's
made to grip an apple.
not.
My hand is perfectly made to grip an apple. My eyes can perfectly see you. What do you mean, how is nothing perfect?
Do you know that
It's
the
too
Earth gets
perfect.
5 million miles closer and farther away from the sun throughout the year?
Okay. So
So,
why are
so,
we
so it's perfect, but there's a range of error of 5 million apparently.
range of error to your standards? But this is where I'm
What
going with
the?
this. Listen,
What
listen,
does
listen.
that mean?
Listen, this is where I'm going with this.
Literally nothing that you said
This is where I'm
is
going with this.
correct because
This is where
what
I'm going with
actually
this.
happens is the conditions that are given. Let
Agree.
me ask you a question: Is bacteria perfectly is bacteria perfectly created in order to resist antibiotics?
Well, this is where I'm getting to, and I'll answer that. In the beginning, to my belief, in the book of Genesis, you're going to call me crazy for this, but I believe the Adam and Eve story were completely real. I believe that God created originally everything perfect. The stars, the planet, the sun, the humans, everything perfect. Everything was intended to live forever. Okay?
Okay, give me evidence.
Wait. My personal belief is when sin entered the world, disorder and entropy began. And if you look, this is kind of interesting. If you look at
It's
the
not.
biblical, wait, listen. If you look at the biblical lifespans from the very beginning of Genesis to the New Testament, it actually shows, like if you put it on a graph, it shows a huge decrease. Like that's to me that's interesting. They started off living 900 and then it's 400, 200, 100 and now we're here today. So it's like it fits in perfect with this idea of entropy.
Give
In
me
fact, I
evidence
believe
that
that
any of that happened or is
it is the
true.
okay, it's faith. Actually, I do think there is evidence though. I do think there is evidence. Would you agree that 10,000 years ago that life was more optimal?
No.
Really? You don't think that plants grew taller, humans were faster, stronger?
Humans may have been a little so like 10,000. Well, that was pretty early in the agricultural revolution. Weirdly, our diets may have been well back then. Our diets were probably worse than they are today. So because a lot of people did a lot of man, they may have been in slightly better shape, but like infant mortality rates were sky high. So no, they weren't like doing better than we are by any stretch.
Do you think that we are getting bigger, faster, and stronger?
It's pretty much peaked because again, our diets like 200 years ago, our diets were pretty crappy. They're crappy again for different reasons, but humans can't really get much taller on average because there are a lot of medical problems with when you scale a human up.
Okay, so do you believe that it was possible for a human to live to be 900 years old at one point in
Absolutely
time?
not. No.
Why?
because we know what causes aging today, and
Okay.
why on they would have to, like, the idea that there's nothing naturalistic or whatever that could possibly intervene that would make their telomeres not shorten over time,
Okay.
for
So
example.
I, in a sense, agree with that. What if the environment was slightly different?
So you'd have to give me evidence. You can't just say, like, what if?
Okay, fine.
This is why I said earlier, give me a reason to believe it.
Okay.
What
Okay.
if is not a reason to believe.
Okay, I'll tell you. So in the days of Noah, let's assume that let's just give a random number. Let's assume that this was 8,000 years ago. I don't believe that that's the exact number. Let's just say it is 8,000 years ago. Let's say that people were living to be 900, 800, whatever. In the days of Noah, the Bible says that a firmament, some kind of water firmament, was broken. And if you look at those genealogies, right after the firmament was broken, it really does from 800, 700, 600, 500, 400. So I personally believe that there was some kind of firmament. Maybe the atmosphere was just a little bit thicker because people are like, how could water be suspended in the air? Well, the atmosphere is technically water and it's suspended in the air. Maybe
The
it was,
atmosphere is not water.
you wouldn't say that it's not H2O at all. It has nothing to do
There
with
are
water.
clouds in the atmosphere. The atmosphere is not water.
Okay, let's say that the atmosphere had a 5-inch water, what I don't know, I don't even know how to pronounce it. Like there's a water firmament theory. Okay, if there was a water firmament theory, would you accept that lifespans could increase if it were
That,
true?
so you're just saying, what if there was a firmament? What the hell is a firmament? What qualities does it have that lengthen human lifespan? You're
It
just
blocks out
saying,
molecular
if there
damage from the
was a
sun.
thing, then other things.
It
There's
blocks
no
out.
connection.
Okay, so the connection that many creationists have is that it blocks out the molecular damage from the sun. So that would be one way. And here's the crazy part.
We already
If
have
you
an ozone layer for, but there's no evidence that the firmament existed
Okay,
or
that's
that it
fine.
even would have that
I'm just
ability.
asking if it did, would you accept that it was possible to live that long?
900 years? No.
Even if there was a water firmament layer, like blocking the damage from the sun. Okay, then I guess we're not going to get anywhere with this argument.
Yeah, I mean there are animal the longest lived animals we know of live to be like 400 years old. They live in the water. They have extremely slow metabolisms, so they're blocked out from that UV and all that. They got everything going for them and they can't live that long. And humans have vastly faster metabolisms, are more dividing and repairing. The busier something is, the more entropy works against it. We are warm blooded. And actually, a lot of creationists say like extra oxygen is good, but oxygen's actually highly reactive. So
So extra oxygen isn't good
no,
for longer lives? Why do we have hyperbolic chambers that when people get
they
severely
can
injured, we
repair
put them in there?
tissue in the long term. They can help repair tissue, but
Okay.
I'm not. Look, if there's some data out there, like if they like raised mice in hyperbaric chambers and they live to be twice as long, that would be super cool. I'm really interested in that. But what I know about oxygen, being like a bio major and teaching stuff about this, is oxygen's highly reactive. And so when you have molecules like that, they create free radicals, which literally like change the shape of the molecules inside your body. And that's also one of the components of aging.
What would happen if we somehow could survive in a green screen, or not green screen, but a greenhouse? And in this greenhouse, we had 25 hyperbaric chambers plugged up. Would we live longer or would we age as fast?
I have no idea.
I mean,
But again, like hypotheticals, what ifs? This isn't evidence.
I'm agreeing. I have to have faith to believe that. I
Okay.
don't know. I mean, I can point you to good books and good documentaries, but like, I don't know.
What were we
I can't
talking
regurgitate
about?
the information. I don't remember.
Oh, we were talking. Oh, he got disconnected somehow.